What's up, Rockstars? Do I have some news for you? There is some really cool campaigns I want to show you. Some indie things, some beloved classics that are returning, some that are being turned into a movie. There's a lot going on. I'm going to do some comparisons. I've dived deep into a lot of these campaigns to tell you some rules, actually, as well as some comparisons on price, stuff like that. We also have a big issue with a few of these. So we're going to be talking over a few of those more drama-like stuff towards the end. Thank you to my channel sponsor Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell. Alright, before I dive in, I know I said this last time that this would be the last video, but look, it's late. I didn't get it done yet, okay? So it was a late work day, but I'm going to get this out to you guys in time. I'm going to work through the night a little bit. I'm going to get it ready for you guys, so apologize for the same kind of boring background. We'll do better, I promise. I'll work on it. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's dive into Crystal Age. I showed this last time, and as you can see now, I actually have backed. I went ahead and backed at the early bird high corruption pledge. All in shipped to be about $100, maybe even a bit less. And for that, I think this fits the bill quite well to get everything and make it a nice, kind of more premium experience with the sleeved cards and stuff like that. Now, this is really first of all, it's an indie effort, so be aware of that, both in the fact that it might not be the most smoothest thing ever, it might not even have the best prices ever because the scale of everything is lower, but it also means that you're actually using like Kickstarter in a more legitimate way, perhaps. So kind of keep that in mind. This is definitely what I would consider a filler game. It's something that you can either just table real quick, kind of do it impromptu, not even call it a game night, just a quick session or two, maybe even 3 of them. Depends on how quick it plays, and that we'll see. It says 30 minutes per player. That seems like a long time, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. It's a power ramp game, and I don't know if that's a term or not. That's what I call it. I call stuff like Machikoro a power ramp game, or Dominion, or DC Deck Builder, or any of those kind of things where you're kind of like building up your deck to make it stronger, or building up your abilities to make it stronger. Even something like Twisted Fables, to me, is a power ramp game. The main actual game there is becoming more powerful iteratively and choosing your path to power. So that's kind of what this is here, mixed with kind of like a Pokemon. Essentially, you get to kind of move around the board and eventually get to the middle. And in doing so, you're going to be fighting these like monsters that you then get to take and you gain their abilities. So you can kind of build up your abilities up to, I think, 3. So you can do any combination of 3, plus I believe a guardian on top of that. I haven't read the full rulebook yet, but suffice it to say, each of the enemies have like abilities. And these abilities are stuff like allow you to re-roll, or allow you to heal up at the beginning, or do a damage to somebody that's unblockable, stuff like that. And they kind of stack on top of each other typically too. So you can upgrade your dice, or you can do a whole, the idea, I believe, is that you can like, okay, I'm going to do a whole bunch of unmitigatable damage, or, whatever. So like it's direct damage, and just try and peg into that and see how that does. See if I'm better that way or not. You can do it cooperatively, you can do it competitively. There's a few options there. It is a pretty game, in my opinion. I think it's very pretty, especially the really fancy art on here. I think that's really nice. So definitely wanted the Crystal Age if I'm going to get it. I want my physical board game that I'm sitting there to look nice, to feel nice, right? Now, that's why I went with the $100 pledge, by the way, because, well, it's not. I mean, it's like, 74 USD. And that's still fairly accurate. I was going to do the mid, but then to add this, it pretty much means that you're paying a few bucks more and you're getting the sleeves, you're getting the cloth bag, you're getting the dice tray, stuff like that, like for pretty much nothing. So it's like, okay, I'll upgrade. Anyway, it's not the deepest game, in my opinion. Kind of like a Machikoro is not the deepest game, in my opinion. But I still enjoy playing games like Machikoro. They're fun little games you can play around. And honestly, I find, at least lately, I tend to play those games more often because they're easy to table. It's a small package, you get it down there, you throw it down on the table and you play it. Now, will this be easy to table? I don't know. I'll find out. I'll let you guys know, of course. But for less than $100, all in shipped, where I get everything and it's nice, I'm willing to give an indie a shot. I think it looks pretty. So if nothing else. So that's kind of where I'm sitting on that. Alice is missing. Speaking of pretty, Alice is missing was a hugely cool and interesting idea. It was interesting both in concept and then in like actually how you play it. I think it's fascinating. They're actually turning it into a movie, which is super cool, with Paramount Plus by the looks of it. So that was kind of interesting to see the Paramount Plus. So I think it's going to be like on their streaming service. But Paramount Plus is like super cheap anyway. I mean, half the things you buy, we'll just give it to you for free, a subscription at this point. So anyway. It looks really cool. It definitely can be pricey. So the expansion, this right here, by all means, get it. I think it's awesome. They're also doing a digital Roll20 version of it. I think that's super cool as well. I think that's awesome, and it allows people to play across distances. But you can get, and I think this is really the cat's pajamas here, these keepsakes. And what are these keepsakes? They're like handcrafted little knickknacks and stuff like that. That is just awesome. Awesome stuff. If you want a premium experience, that's definitely how you do it. And they're like selling out of that stuff too. Like they maxed out the 150 of them for the early bird. And as you see, $250. It's a lot. It's a lot. So anyway, and you can get the envelopes to like tier 1 or whatever. They got that for like 40. So feel free to check it out. It's definitely a very cool experience. It's not something I think I could do very well. At least not to the point where I would enjoy it like others can, where they can really get into it. I tend to try and I'm more of a gamify kind of player, so I'm not as immersed, if that makes sense. I don't know if I could go that far, but for people who can, it looks awesome. It's doing very well. Good for them. Okay, next up we have the Modular Gaming Table by Wyrmwood, and this was very, very nice. 1.5 million, and this is just from reserves, though there might be people putting more money into it. So let me explain that. First of all, if you recall, they had their desk that was going to be a game table that they canceled, and that had a goal of 3 million, and they canceled it. So 1.5 million sounds like a lot, but for building these things, it's not a lot. I mean, these tables are custom, and I'm going to explain pricing on tables here in a little bit too. Like I said, I dive deep into this stuff, try and give you some more information on a lot of this, and have some pricing comparisons too. So with this, you're really just getting your reservation essentially for $300. And so that's really what you're doing here. And because they can only make so many at a time, notice July, August, September, October, right? They go out maybe 2+ years. I mean, they are going out. Their one right now is for May of 2024. And that's assuming things go smoothly. Now, it could go a little bit early, perhaps, could go later. So either way, you're already like well out, right? Now, why is this so expensive, right? It's because these tables are not mass produced. If you think about something like a desk or a table or something like that, even a dining table, your customers might range in the hundreds of thousands. You make these in a factory across the seas typically, but perhaps not. Either way, you're making them in mass quantities for a huge amount of people because everybody and their grandmother literally needs a dining room table or something like that, or is interested in one. So that's why that is priced the way it is. And typically they're quite utilitarian, but even if they are fairly elegant, the prices are still cut down by that mass production because there are a ton of people that want an elegant dining table set, perhaps. These things, you're not going to get those numbers. As much as this is, Wyrmwood is like the top dog. They're like the biggest ones. 5,000. Okay, so, and that's assuming people who aren't just getting accessories or people who flake out or whatever. The numbers here are so much lower that inherently this is handcrafted small batch. You don't do factory runs of stuff like this. It just doesn't work out. And the moment you add those two words, those add expenses, right? It's way more expensive to do that. I've seen some, and I've covered some that were fairly cheaper. They used like metal and kind of were all kind of the same. And this helps with this modular gaming table. Essentially, it's made to be able to kind of expand and then have accessories kind of slotted down on the side. Even still, it's expensive. right? It's just, there's no way around it. Just inherently based off the numbers and based off what you need to do, and then trying to provide a premium stuff, it's expensive. But it can actually be fairly cheap. So I actually went, because I am looking for a Warhammer table. And if you don't know, Warhammer table ideally is a little bit higher, at least 31 inches high, because typically you're standing and moving around it. And it needs to be 4 foot by 6 foot for a playing area typically as well, because that's kind of the standard size, though you can go smaller, you can go larger if you want, but 4 foot by 6 foot is ideal. The 4 foot wide typically means dining tables are out. Most dining tables are not 4 feet wide. Some are though, just depends. But that's kind of the idea, right? So I was looking at that because the Origins, this game theory tables, also have a campaign going on right now, and they both offer on their website a table big enough for Warhammer, and they are about the same price, maybe. So the thing is where you're at. So where you are at physically. If you're in the US, Wyrmwood is actually pretty good. Because it's about the same price for game theory tables in pounds, but the conversion to the USD really hurt it right now. So it's a little bit more expensive there. But comparable, I mean, they're about the same quality. They really are made from the same material. They look the same build quality. They look very nice. This one comes with a shipping flat rate of $200 to the US. And there are differences. So I'll do that. About $200 for what I was looking at. And this one is free for the US. So you do have to kind of keep that in mind as well. I think the big difference is Wyrmwood seems to charge more for their accessories. For instance, you can get a cup holder for about $50 here, assuming you're not getting the built-in ones here as well. Whereas this one, they are throwing in 2 to 4 cup holders free, which is nice, but additional cup holders like this one, $70. So definitely a lot of their profits probably come from their accessories. So keep that in mind. It also means you can get it pretty cheap as long as you don't do accessories. But I'll be talking about accessories later because Game Theory Table actually sent me the Meeple's Champion here, so I will have a review out for that soon. I'll let you guys know exactly what I think about their kind of basic table. The Origins is a bit more premium. It's actually pretty much the same table, but with all the pizzazz on the outside automatically, right? Which is kind of nice for sure. So anyway, both of these are available. Feel free to look it over, pick which one's good for you. I have a link to the Origins one down in the description below, as well as the Wyrmwood. So feel free to check that out. And with that, let's go to move on to a quick 3D print one. This is Scenery Elements for Dioramas and Bases 1.0, and it looks awesome. I actually really like this guy's Zabafka. I can never really pronounce their name, but they do some really good stuff. These are just awesome. So if you are into doing dioramas or anything like that, grabbing these STLs, even if you don't 3D print, would it be helpful? You can always give it to a 3D print shop, which will 3D print it for you. And some of these like smoke elements, like this reminds me of one Games Workshop actually puts on a grenade for a Space Marine, but you could now do that with a lot more. So that's super cool. And, you know, just putting branches and stuff like that. If you got, you know, some kind of forest theme going on, there's a lot here and a lot they're unlocking. So I think that's super cool. Feel free to check that out as well. Okay, let's talk about stuff upcoming. Awaken Realms next 2023. Join us on February 28th at 6 p.m. Central Europe time, so I don't know when. You'll have to do the math. For the first ever event where we will announce our publishing plans for 2023. That's going to be huge. Get ready for some surprises and big hits as we will reveal everything we have been working on lately. Hit the notification button and be sure not to miss the event. Awaken Realms next 2023 will be hosted by their CEO, Marcin, who everybody loves, and Adrian, the company's co-owner. I don't think ever heard from him, so that's cool. During our event, the live chat will be active and you'll have the opportunity to exchange your thoughts with other members of the board gaming community. See you on February 28th. That's going to be huge. This is the image. By the way, I know it looks grainy. YouTube is dumb. They still force this image to be 720p, but then they've added this live stream thing where it like blows up your thumbnail full screen, but it's stuck at 720p. I don't know why they do that. It's dumb. They should allow for bigger thumbnails, but whatever. Okay, so anyway, this is kind of, I think, a sign of things to come. And if I was interested in anything, it would be this one right here.
What in God's name is going on there? I want to know. This one seems kind of cool too. This one's kind of cool too. This one I'm not sure about. I guess we'll see. But that one, I'm digging the monster. I really am. Okay, next up. The Wilderness was canceled. I covered this last time. It's a little short and sweet here about that they'll be coming up and they'll kind of look at their campaign strategy. One thing I would suggest right off the bat is focusing more on the actual game and sharing more about that. What makes it unique? What makes it worth people's while? Why they want to back it now? And why it stands out among the rest. You can have pretty minis, and those are pretty minis, but you need to have a game to back it up with it too. It needs to show. Okay, next up, this is kind of big news, sort of. Big Kid Games is no more. Sadly, another company has closed, which means people will not be getting this game, which is unfortunate. It really is. Our goal is to reconcile the matter with you in one way or another. We'll disclose more information about how this will look in the future. I have no idea what that means. Perhaps that means they're trying to sell it off because they kind of did that with Sweet Mess. Sweet Mess was a sweet mess for a long time. But as you can see, it was actually taken over by Fantasia Games and is still trucking along. So that is not related to this, even though it says Big Kid Games there. Oh man, sorry about my voice. My goodness, where the heck is it going? Still recovering. Not quite 100%. Been sick for a little bit. But anyway, super big bummer. Really is. But I do dig the sincere apologies. It's more than we're getting from some people. We'll talk about that very soon. By very soon, I mean like right now. So I'm going to end on a more positive note. So this is the second to last thing I'm going to cover here. This is Dice Tomes Volume 2. We've known about this for a while. It's actually live right now, yet it's in the drama section. I'll explain why. And I'll still link to it down below. You guys make up your own opinion on what you want to back and not back, where you put your money. You can listen to me, maybe take it into account, but ultimately you should make your own opinion on things. Of course, I don't have to tell you guys that. I'm always proud of you guys thinking for yourselves. So this is done by Arcane Games and or Artifact Games, I apologize. And the person who owns Artifact Games is from Grimlord Games. It is Adam James Smith. Now, Adam Smith is very much trying to distance himself from Grimlord Games because, as you know, they very much struggled with the Everrain, and Lord only knows if they're going to be able to deliver village attacks. So either way, there's a lot of ruffled feathers there because they pretty much don't get a lot of updates. Mike doesn't say anything, and James doesn't want to have any responsibility with it either. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but suffice it to say, there is definitely some attempts at some censorship and silencing people's voice, which is super unfortunate. We'll be talking through that in a bit more. I'm going to go and scroll down. I am in the comments, by the way. That's where everything's living here. And we will go ahead and take a scroll and respond to a few things. I do have some highlights here, so that's what I'm looking for here. Here's one right here. This is talking about a backers beware. I'd strongly advise against backing anything from this individual. He was co-founder of a company that ripped off thousands of backers for hundreds of thousands of dollars and is trying to walk away from his obligations. You would be foolish to provide him with any funds. Check out Grimlord Games, Village Attacks, and the King of Averages YouTube takedown of them. More of a coverage more than a takedown. Just covering the news, and if the news is negative, it is what it is. Now, I did want to address this real quick. King of Average thrives on his controversy generating his traffic. So, fun fact, that's actually not true, and it's not backed on any data. My biggest videos by far are reviews, actually, of board games. Speaking of which, Stone Saga soon, and I just got the Townsfolk Tussle expansion. So you'll be seeing an unboxing and a review of that here shortly as well. That is literally the bread and butter. Now, I cover this quite often because news things happen. I want to inform people and share my opinion on things. And some people value that, some people don't, and that's fine, of course. But to think that the news is like really driving this actually isn't the case. It's actually kind of filler if you think about it. The big ones really are the reviews, and because it's not just ad revenue. You see, I have some amazing patrons, and they help immensely. Like a huge amount. It makes AdSense blush a little bit. Like it really does. The patrons are amazing. And I just got done with a fundraiser as well. And the fundraiser, between that and that, I am community driven. Therefore, you guys actually fund me. Not any one single video, but a lot of that doesn't just come from the news. A lot of it does come from my reviews, my unboxings, and a host of other things I do, even some painting videos. So anyway, that's an oversimplification, but I think people try and do this to try and rob my voice a little bit because they want to think that I might only be faking this for something. Anytime you disagree with somebody, it's tempting to say, oh, well, they don't really think it. They actually think like me, and they're just pretending to be some way because of X or Y, because it generates views, because it makes them popular, because they want to be counter, or, whatever. You always try to like take away their voice or their opinion. And it's nothing malicious. I don't think Mahler's trying to be malicious here at all. It's just kind of a human nature thing we tend to try and do, and we should probably avoid it. I don't want to take Mahler's voice away from him and his opinions, but ideally he allows me to have mine too. He also mentions this, and I do want to clarify this. It says the creative director doesn't handle a company's finances, so I don't understand why people have trouble with the simple fact, which Mr. Average was very happy to overlook because he describes not backing the Everrain as a bullet dodge. That was a video prior to the Everrain delivering at all, and as far as we could tell, it was never going to deliver. So that is actually incorrect. He may have seen the video afterwards, but I actually created that video before the Everrain actually delivered. And even then, I actually explained in the video that I don't want to wait around for that many years for my game either, and be strung along. I'm past that point in my Kickstarter backing to want that. So whether you deliver or not, you could still end up on that list. But anyway, that is that. We're going to move on to some stuff from actually Artifact Games here. So, it says still waiting on an update on your other campaign, you know which. If you were a partner, you got some responsibility. At least you or your other partner owe us an official update after wasting our money. Now, before I get into this, I want you to note that never once does he apologize. Never once does he show any kind of care or sorrow for the situation that backers are in for a company that he is co-founder of and still co-founder of. If you check this, by the way, there is no resigned, which they would list if he did officially resigned. So he says, I previously served as a creative director of Wyrmwood. That is incorrect. He's not the previous, he is the current. Just because he's doing no work does not mean that he has also left the job. He has still stayed and is still that. If he wants to move on from Wyrmwood Games, he needs to actually move on from Wyrmwood Games, not keep that and then say, oh, well, I don't have anything. Like, if you're not going to be involved, don't be involved. Victoria Elizabeth Brown did resign. Robert Andrew Bogan did resign. James Smith can also resign if he chooses to. He has chosen not to resign. So this previously served is incorrect. Again, just because you're not actively doing work, that's like saying, oh, I previously worked for a company while you're on vacation. It just doesn't work that way. Artifact Games should be judged on its own merits. That is also incorrect. It's an opinion. He's free to his opinion. But when it comes to crowdfunding, when it comes to actually, like putting your money towards something, the history of the company matters. And the history of the people behind the company matters a lot. There are people that move from company to company of failures. There are people that, and I'm sure you guys can list down below a few names that you know of, that you avoid any campaign that they are involved in because of those issues. So it can definitely matter what the creators previously did. Again, it's one of those things where James always wants to gain the benefit and never have the con. So often developers will list previous things that they worked on, right? That happens all the time. Stone Saga, which is also on Kickstarter. I'm not covering it in today's video. These videos get long enough as it is, but all that's linked down below, of course. It lists the games that the developers made beforehand with other companies. That's a pro. That's a pro that people always do. But then what about the con, right? What about this other game that you made that was crap? Or what about this other company you ran that ran into the ground and you don't apologize for and you don't communicate with? It matters. It matters. So to say that Artifact Games should not be judged on its own merits, actually, I'm sad that to this day, they don't explicitly say, by the way, the owner of this is an owner of another board game company on Kickstarter that you might very well be aware of. That seems very pertinent to consumers and wanting to hide that information. Anytime you're wanting to stifle information, you know you're in the wrong. And that's exactly what James does and continues to do. We'll get to the censorship here soon, but that's kind of what he's talking about here is like, hey, I don't want you even talking about this. I don't want that information being talked about. I don't want it being discussed. And if you don't want it being discussed, it's probably because it's bad. And that's not, I mean, that it is what it is. The information is what it is. Okay, so scrolling down here, why so many deleted comments? There seems to be a lot of deleted comments. Must be something grim. There was a sudden, I even got contacted by a few of these people saying, hey, this guy's deleting comments. I'm like, what? What's going on? Luckily, he responds. The reason for the deleted comments is the number of people discussing other Kickstarter projects, the ones that he was director of and is director of, that have nothing to do with this one. So he was actively marking and abusing the moderation tools on Kickstarter to try and take people's voice away. Shame on you, James. Shame on you. I cannot stand this culture of trying to just silence opposition, that if we disagree, then the other person can't speak. To take away somebody's voice like that is just so sad. It's such a cowardly move. It's just it's an act of a loser. It's somebody trying to exert what little power they have and what little space they have to control it to their whims and not let anybody else have it. Sadly, though, he cannot delete my video, and actually, sadly, Kickstarter disagreed with him and kept those comments. So if you scroll down below, and I'm not going to bother scrolling all the way down, but there's now those comments back up. You won't see them deleted because Kickstarter actually said, no, that's not the case. If you didn't know, Kickstarter's policy is hide instantly and then review. And so a creator can abuse the moderation tools like he is right here, trying to stop people from saying things. But Kickstarter will eventually say, no, actually, you're full of BS. Sadly, I don't know of any kind of reprimand for him for abusing the moderation tools like that. But I guess this video can serve as a little bit of a reprimand. Shame on you for doing that. Don't take people's voices away. If they have concern, maybe you should address that. Maybe you should try apologizing or feeling bad for them, or I don't know, maybe even trying to leave the company you're supposedly trying to leave. I don't know. It just sucks his attitude. Actually, there was one more attitude here. Okay, so this is kind of it's unfortunate. And again, he is much more than his persona here online and his work self. A lot of people very much have a very different work self than others. Some people are actually quite kind and then ruthless in business. Money changes people in all sorts of ways. And that doesn't mean he's not a kind father or a kind husband or son or whatever. Okay. I mean, he's got a whole life, but this is really appalling. So people are again saying like, hey, I mean, obviously people are upset. Obviously people are struggling with this. And his reaction to that is to say, well, hey, I did a great job, so shut up, essentially. Partner with the explicit remit of handling everything creative and nothing business, which I delivered on and excelled at. Why on earth, when there are people so upset that they're following you to your new campaign, would you boast about your work there? At least be considerate and be empathetic of some sort. I don't know if he just doesn't buy games, if he just isn't a backer. Obviously, he doesn't have a consumer mindset for the life of him, and he can't comprehend this side of it where we actually give money instead of receiving money. But it really, really sucks to see a creator be that way to their commenters. He also do this, like this whole thing here, see, on his own merits. He's just copy pasting responses. I'll have you know that I've run this channel for, I don't know what, like since 2018, right? I've never once done an automatic response or a copy pasted response. Never once. If I'm responding to you, it's because I'm taking the time to interact with you as a person. And it's sad to see that all he'll do is delete your comment or copy paste a response or boast about his work on a failed campaign. Just sucks. Really does suck. But we're going to end on a high note here. You might recognize this. This is by Fanatic Game Labs. They did the Heroes and Gods, A Master of Dreams. They actually did respond to me, clarified a few things, and then ended up clarifying it here as well. So I think that's awesome. How people react matters, right? That's why I end on this. How people react matters. I don't expect perfection. I'm not perfect. I have made big mistakes. How you react, I feel, is what's important. And the fact that it's not so continuous and egregious that there's obviously no even effort to improve. sometimes people can't improve fully. People are who they are, and sometimes it takes a long time to improve, but hopefully you can see honest effort there. And again, how they react. Like, you bump into somebody, and some people say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And some people say, hey, watch it, right? This is the hey, watch it. This is a, oh, hey, I'm sorry. Okay? Either way, you got bumped into. It doesn't change the fact that you got bumped into, but your reaction to an issue matters. It matters a lot. So doing something like this, well, look at this. Remember, I talked about this? There are tons of things you can update afterwards, like a bar showing people, hey, where are we for the funding? Where are we going? That's huge. That's awesome. That's great. And then an FAQ section with stuff like a receipt, stuff like shipping costs. All that kind of stuff is great. Now, again, it's not perfect. For instance, this is why shipping costs so high due to the pandemic effectively destroying the freight shipping. Shipping costs increased historically. There is no accountability yet, or I guess ownership of the fact that stuff like the card count doubled from like 600 to like 1,200, and so like or the fact that this explosion of another expansion happened and stuff like that. And I guess my point is that, you know, like, this number is not based off the original Kickstarter. It's based off of the eventual one made after a long time. And for further proof of that, right here, it began production in 2021, yet it is a, let me scroll down. How you guys doing today? Our print run is small and can be done quickly. So why isn't it done if it was started in 2021? Well, I'll scroll back up. Hope you guys are doing good. Okay. Due to the fact that they have added a myriad of game changes, they actually put it on hold. Okay. Now, why did they pull it on hold? Before I do that, I'm going to get this other one here. What happens if I don't get the shipping? Absolutely not. The game you paid for is yours, and we do our best to deliver every single order that we have. However, we have prioritized backers who covered the extra shipping. There needs to be more comment around this. For instance, if you produce it, then you have to store it. And in fact, later on, you talk about mold. Why haven't you printed these games if the production was... Okay, mold is bad. Damp environment's bad. Right? All that very true. There's actually something else, and that's called storage costs. Once you make it, it's got to go somewhere. You're either paying for storage or you're paying for shipping. You got to pick. That's what you got to do. So if you make it in 2021, you have to pay for storage every single month. And eventually they kick you out of the factory because you're taking up space and they need the space. And you have to go pay for some external shipping or some shipping that the factory has off-site somewhere where it's going to get mold. Right? So it's kind of a catch-22. There's two things there. Okay, so do you offer any refunds? Unfortunately, due to the nature of the business, we cannot offer refunds. Give me your opinion on this. I want to hear your opinion on this. I want to discuss it with you. Pros and cons. Pros and cons. First of all, if you've extended the time this long, if you extended the scope this long, there might be people that aren't even into board games anymore. Well, I've covered the fact that some people can die when you're this late. When it takes you this many years, somebody may have kicked the bucket, and that's super unfortunate. But ideally, you give that widow or whoever's left over a refund. And honestly, they probably would in that circumstance. But do you, I get the concept of people deserve a refund. At the same time, people deserve the game. And if you're giving refunds, it just means you're giving refunds to people who asked, and then shutting down the business, and then nobody else gets their game. So you're kind of like fulfilling it for a few through a refund, and then not fulfilling to everybody else, which is also kind of a bummer. And so I don't think you should put a company at risk just to offer refunds. You should deliver your product. Though I can understand not wanting to. So I can see both. It's not an ideal solution. There is no right answer. There is only pros and cons, which is why nothing is perfect and everything has pros and cons. Let me know your opinion on that, though. I would love to hear your opinion. And then they go down and they do all the rest of the stuff. I'm not concerned about any of that. Just, I really appreciated the response with some information. And I think that's good. I think can still be some more information. I think there can be some more responsibility for the situation, some more apologies around the situation. But I do appreciate the trend towards being better. So that's great. And that's where I'm going to end it on, guys. Let me know what you thought of this. I know I dived deep into these. It was a little bit longer video, and I give you a lot more information about each of these. So hopefully you appreciated that. If you do, let me know. If you just wanted me to more rapid fire cover stuff, I can do that too. Let me know in the comments below. Guys, thank you so very much. I got to review Stone Saga. I got to review a board game table, and I got to review a Townsfolk Tussle expansion. So expect a slew of those next week. Guys, thank you so much. Take care. Bye, guys.